It's not just another day in your life. Things are changing for the better. At Comcast, we see those changes, and we're thinking about how we use technology today to live, work, learn, and play. And we're building for the future now, so we're better prepared for the wants and needs of tomorrow. That's why Comcast is rolling out multi-gig internet speeds to more than 50 million homes and businesses before the end of 2025, making our already industry-leading network even faster, smarter, greener, and more reliable. Over the decades, Comcast has been your partner, working hard to serve your community, and will continue to be your partner. We're expanding our gigabits so you can enjoy the tiny bits that matter most.
I'm Brandon Jones, host of the Teen Mental Health podcast, It Is Not Your Fault.
And I'm Lambert Fisher, family therapist and host of the Diversity Dude podcast.
We're not always going to be all right, and that's what makes us human. Often, when we're in pain or even thinking of suicide, we may not want others to know, but you'll feel better if you talk to someone, and you can do that safely and anonymously.
We can recognize when loved ones are not okay. They bottle up, they isolate, they're angry.
That's why we want you to know about 988, Minnesota Lifeline, for someone you're worried about or even yourself.
Anyone with an emotional or mental health related need can call, chat, or text 988 for free, confidential support. You can connect with 988 to discuss difficulty with money, relationships, anxiety, your job, concerns about drug or alcohol use, grief support, figuring out your identity, and more.
You don't even have to identify yourself or the person you're calling about, and no insurance is needed.
988 is available 24/7 year-round and can interpret in more than 200 languages.
So take a brave step. Call or text 988.
Or chat at 988lifeline.org. You don't have to do this alone.
Greetings, and welcome to another installment of It Is Not Your Fault, a teen mental health podcast. I am your host, Brandon Jones, and on today's episode, we are going to discuss something called the minimization mindset. This is a new term that I came across this week, and it was in reference to leaders and leadership. But I thought about it. I was like, where does this mindset come from? And when do people first start to show it? And I thought about, have I ever had this mindset? I think I have. I think many of us have. And I was wondering, like, this has to show up in childhood somewhere. And I said, what better place, if we're really going to look at this thing, than adolescence? So I was like, let's talk about this on the podcast, get some conversation going, see if you've seen this. And hopefully, if you have seen this, you are assisting the young person you've seen this in. If it's you, you work on it yourself. Or if it's a friend of yours, that you connect with them as best as possible. So we're going to talk about the minimization mindset today on the podcast. So what is it? Let's get to a definition. So the definition that I came across that was clear, and I thought, we can work with this, is the minimization mindset is a cognitive and behavioral approach where the individual downplays or trivializes their own experiences, emotions, achievements, or challenges. This mindset often stems from internal or external pressures to conform, avoid conflict, or meet societal expectations. People with minimization mindset might do one of the four following things. They may downplay their successes, so they might attribute their achievements to luck or rather than skill, or they might minimize the efforts or the talents that they have that were involved in the activity. They may suppress their emotions, so they may deny or minimize their own feelings, particularly the negative ones, to avoid being perceived as weak or overly emotional. Number 3, they ignore challenges. So they often downplay the difficulties they face, convincing themselves that their problems aren't significant or worthy of attention. And number 4, they undervalue their needs. So individuals may neglect their own needs, convincing themselves that they're not important enough to deserve the care or attention that they deserve. So this mindset can be harmful as it often leads to low self-esteem, under stress, and ultimately burnout. Yes, as a young person, you can get burnt out. And we're seeing this. We're seeing a lot of young people check out of sports, friendships, dating relationships, academics, healthy engagements, physical activity. Like kids are checking out right now. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. It can prevent individuals from seeking help or recognizing the full scope of their capabilities. Over time, minimizing one experience can hinder personal growth, relationships, and overall well being. Overcoming a minimization mindset involves recognizing and validating one's own experiences, emotions, and needs, and embracing the importance of self care and self worth. So, one thing we've talked about on this podcast is being proactive with your self care. And I think that this ties right into that need. Many people practice self care habits and practices and utilize healthcare that too. They minimize their well being and their self care, and they don't engage until something happens. We are more reactive than proactive with taking care of ourselves, and I think that's where this mindset kind of kicks in. Now, we see this in a lot of adolescents, especially ones that find their ways of checking out. And one of the easiest ways to distract themselves or to quote unquote check out is on their devices. Now, that doesn't mean that every time they're on their devices, they're checking out, but the ones that do check out, that's an easy place to go because they can somewhat still be socially connected, but not involved, right? They're not engaging 100%. They may passively like or comment or share something, but typically they're just lurking so they can stay in the know, but they're not connected. And this is a big challenge for a lot of young people because that level of connection can be just enough, and then they won't branch out and they'll stay stuck in this minimization mindset. So they're suppressing their feelings, their achievements, and their emotions. Now, one may say, well, where does this come from? I think we have a culture that supports this extremely well in today's society, our overall culture. If you are from the Midwest, you may have heard of like Midwest Nice, or Minnesota, we call it Minnesota Nice, where we really are super passive and sometimes passive aggressive on a lot of things. And I think the way we internalize that is by suppressing our own feelings and needs because we don't want to burden other people with them. So I think that there's a larger cultural piece to this, but there's also a youth culture piece to this that kind of feeds into what we used to call the emo kids, right? The kids who are emotional and they express their emotions in very dark ways and their grungy music and all that type of stuff. There was a big stereotype archetype of that, but that has spread beyond that little archetype of individuals and is now a part of just youth culture where you have these kids who are just really melancholy. That's the big fancy psychological term, is they're melancholy. They're just like low energy, low bar, big baggy clothes, hoodies on all the time. Like you see most kids like this, but there's a specific subgroup that function this way. And when I read this minimization mindset, I was like, man, this is what's happening. Now you may be wondering, where does it come from? My sneaky suspicion is it comes from the adults in their lives. Now, the school of psychology that I come from is called Adlerian psychology, or Adlerian theory is another way to frame it. So if you want to Google that, feel free. And Adler has this famous quote that I'm pretty sure I've rattled off several times on this podcast before, which is encouragement to a child is like water to a tree. And I always think about that quote anytime I run into a young person who's struggling, whether that's from a clinical standpoint or if that's just in my personal life. I think about my own kids. When my own kids are down, I'm like, where are they lacking encouragement? And that's one of the things I think definitely leads to this is when they don't have the adults, one, modeling encouragement and modeling healthy behaviors, two, encouraging them directly with healthy behaviors. You know, pats on the back. You worked really hard on this. Keep going. Don't give up. Like those are all important messages that kids need to see from you and hear from you. But then also, it's not just the parents, the environments that our kids are in. If they are in environments that don't encourage the kid to hard work, smart work, perseverance, bouncing back, resiliency, fighting through, all those things in today's culture sound exhausting. But those are things that kids need to be resilient, to not have a minimization mindset, to have what I guess the counter to this would be like a maximization mindset or abundant mindset. And everybody is not going to be, just super fruitful, but we want to have healthy mindsets overall. And we don't want our kids falling into this space where they're downplaying their success, suppressing their emotions, ignoring their challenges, or devaluing their needs. Like that's not a helpful thing at all for young people. And it made me think of another thing that I want to share with you all before we close out today's podcast. And I, of course, always get some tips. So I'll give some tips before we close out. But it made me think, how is this related to an inferiority complex? So again, adding the layers. What if you're a young person with a physical disability or a neurodivergent status, where it may not be something that you can see, but it's definitely something that's impacting this person's life? What if we add the complexity of class into this, or the complexity of race, or the complexity of body size? Or heck, we can even go to sexual orientation or gender expression. How does that feed into the minimization mindset? And does that lead to or associate itself with the inferiority context? And I think that both can diminish the perception of one's self-worth and capabilities. So when you add how society has othered and created this othering dynamic, it feeds right into the minimization mindset. So the 5 ways that when I thought about this and wrote it out, the 5 ways that it connects to inferiority complexes, it creates a negative self-perception. There's a self-sabotage that takes place with people where they just kind of they become their biggest obstacle. It puts people in a space of seeking external validity and validation. Am I who I need to be? How am I connected? It creates an emotional suppression, which we talked about earlier, suppressing those emotions. So when you already don't feel well about something you have, let's say you're very, very short, or maybe you have a speech impediment, then it just adds on to how you feel about yourself, and you suppress those emotions. And then it also impacts relationships, how you connect, when you connect, why you connect, if you connect. All those things play a role when it's connected to an inferiority complex. So again, the minimization mindset, I think this is something we need to consider a lot more when it comes to our young people. So just 3 quick things I think we can do to kind of combat this is, one, if anything that I shared on this podcast, or if you decide to do your own research on the minimization mindset, resonates with you, I think doing a self-assessment and self-check is important. Do I really feel this way? What are all the things that I am suppressing, or what are all the things I am concerned about or worried about? I think a good tool to do is to write those things out, put it on a piece of paper or type them, so you can physically see those things right in front of your face and say, these are the things that I'm struggling with. And then based on those things that you write down, who is the most appropriate person for me to talk to about it? Is it a friend? Is it a parent? Is it a professional? Is it a youth worker? Is it a teacher? And just share with them what you're struggling with. Don't expect them to have a solution. Don't expect them to even understand. But sharing it keeps it off of just your chest and helps you release that internal pressure of knowing what's happening. And then from there, after you're done sharing, finding healthy habits to combat it. So if you're undermining your success, what are you successful at? Have you ever thought about it? What is success to you? Even figuring that out. Do you have badges or trophies, or have you won things in your life? And if not, finding activities to be engaged in to figure out what success feels like, to win something, right? Don't be a perfectionist. That's a big one as well. I think that a lot of young people try to get the A plus. That's something that I've dealt with a lot in my career is young people who just try to excel to the highest degree. Sometimes you just gotta be good enough, and that's okay. Especially in this world, you don't have to be. I mean, the the grade thing just it leads to different access points, but it's not the end of the world. But for some kids, they have to have those things because they're trying to get Ivy League, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for most kids, that's not the case. That's a whole nother podcast. I don't even know why I delve into that one just now because we don't got enough time. But I will say this to end. Minimization mindset, I think, is something that a lot of kids are dealing with without it being labeled that. And they're talking about kids isolating, they're having depressive symptoms or high levels of anxiety, but it may be a mindset shift that those young people make. So think about this concept. This may be something that I'll bring back at another time as well. And think about how do we combat this? How do we support young people where they're not minimizing how they view themselves, but they're maximizing their skills, their potentials, and their desires, honestly, because our kids need us. So, with that, I'm going to wrap up this podcast. Again, we talked about the minimization mindset today. I'm going to share some of these tips and information on the Facebook page, which is the first place you can check us out. Just go to Facebook, go to the search engine, type in It's Not Your Fault Podcast. You'll find us, like us there, find all good quality content there. If you have any questions or anything from me, you can just go to www.jegna, that's jegna.org. And then if you like this podcast, you'll love the other ones we have on our network. We are on the Shaletta Makes Me Laugh network, and you can check us out at shalettamakesmelaugh.com. That's shalettamakesmelaugh.com. And with that, we're going to wrap up. Please be safe, be constructive, be well, and we'll see you on a future episode. Peace.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at shalettamakesmelaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
If you live in an older home, it may contain lead-based paint on walls, woodwork, and windows. Even more bad news, lead exposure can be dangerous to young children and impact their brain development. And now, the good news. Hennepin County will fix lead hazards in your home at no cost to you.
We were worried because of the paint in the windows in the bedroom. They were peeling and chipping, and we know that when paint peels and chips and it looks a certain way, that's possibly lead. We were worried for our children more so than anything.
Eligible homes can qualify for up to $15,000 in upgrades. You may even qualify for new energy-efficient windows. Don't worry, Hennepin County has a trusted list of pre-approved contractors. You won't even have to find companies with correct licenses or certifications.
I've just done a test and it's positive. So we know that this is lead-based paint, and then we know it's a hazard because it's creating dust every time this window moves and opens. And if you look in here, that's just full of lead paint chips.
You won't have to stay with your cousin while you're getting the lead out. Hennepin County even pays for you and your family to stay in a hotel while the work is underway. The last good news is how easy it is to apply. Just go to hennepin.us/lead control to get started.
I'm really happy with the program. We can go to bed knowing that our children are safe.
That's hennepin.us/lead control. Tell your friends about it.
I'm Brandon Jones, host of the Teen Mental Health Podcast, It Is Not Your Fault.
And I'm Lambert Fisher, family therapist and host of the Diversity Dude podcast.
We're not always going to be all right, and that's what makes us human. Often, when we're in pain or even thinking of suicide, we may not want others to know, but you'll feel better if you talk to someone, and you can do that safely and anonymously.
We can recognize when loved ones are not okay. They bottle up, they isolate, they're angry.
That's why we want you to know about 988, Minnesota Lifeline. for someone you're worried about or even yourself.
Anyone with an emotional or mental health related need can call, chat, or text 988 for free confidential support. You can connect with 988 to discuss difficulty with money, relationships, anxiety, your job, concerns about drug or alcohol use, grief support, figuring out your identity, and more.
You don't even have to identify yourself or the person you're calling about, and no insurance is needed.
988 is available 24/7 year-round and can interpret in more than 200 languages.
So take a brave step. Call or text 988.
Or chat at 988lifeline.org. You don't have to do this alone.